I want to address the question of Titanic, because in my studies I've been concerned of what I call the discursive level of design, because when is technology actually made? And my studies concern very much the discursive level. When we talk about technology, what do we say when we talk about technology, in this case ICTs? And so I've done a lot of policy analysis of EU documents, of course, but also on the national level, how our government and how our ministries are putting forward and trying to launch different ideas. And also the relation between these kind of ideas when they are framed, how they are enacted on a very practical level. So I'm traveling in between this discursive, critical level and a very practical level when this is done, and how practitioners experience those policies and those formations, and how they are trying and struggling with making them into reality. And several of the other presentations have touched upon this, that there are so many expectations, and the question is, why? Why aren't government? Why aren't civil servants? And why they don't do this? And I think several of my studies are touching upon exactly that question. What happens? What happens when these nice wordings are ending up in the laps of practitioners, when they're trying to do what we are expecting them to do? And firstly, I would like to address how we talk about technology then, questioning technology, because the questions you gave me, I don't know who formulated them, but the questions you gave me are very good examples of the same kind of discourse that they are meeting. How could ICT provide? Okay, so they go home to their office and think ICT will provide stuff. And then it doesn't, and they get confused. How come? Because it says it's supposed to provide things. And also, it's supposed to be innovative. And the same thing happens. They go home and think, okay, ICT, and there will be some innovation in this. But are there? How come? Where does innovation come into the play? And thirdly then, it will make citizens interact, empowered. So I often see that they think that these wordings are true by nature. Things will happen only because I use technology. And they kind of get in conflict when these things are not happening, and they blame themselves, ending up that they think they've done all the right things, and things go wrong anyway. So from my perspective, it's interesting to go backwards a little bit and question these word formulations and see how does ICT then provide this? In what way is this really innovative? And as you addressed, will it actually be interactive? Am I up for the interaction? And I think this goes even more back into our image of technology, because technology in itself, in philosophy of technology, is that it's supposed to be modern and rational and so forth. So when it isn't, we kind of think it's not technology. So we are in a limbo, and we're ambivalent, I think, towards our relation with technology. And this is what the practitioners are struggling with on a daily basis. And even more so, I would say that digital technologies are even more opaque, and they talk about it as if it's without materiality. So you could put almost anything into it, and we do. The other part of this is participation then. What is participation? Who participates? And who talks about participation? And in what way do we talk about participation? Are we all participants? Are we participants on equal level or not? Because in practice, someone always defines the participant. And also, we often talk about the right participants. I've been doing studies on different that try to make different systems in order to support e-participation, and they end up in, are we reaching everybody? Are we making clusters? Are we supposed to meet everybody in a similar way, and so forth? So in a way we define the participant, and we also talk about the right and the wrong, and Anders gave this picture about who are we really have to address. Could we prioritize in between the participants? And I will give a little bit of warning that we are replacing technological determinism with romantic voluntarism, that kind of everything will be happening and everything is possible. And I wrote a paper about that the participant or the user is the unicorn. We all agree upon that he or she is there. So if you agree, I agree, and then you exist. But that also creates a lot of conflicts. For example, in public sector, when they are supposed to open up and they're supposed to do everything in interaction with different kind of participants, do you have the conflict that, okay, but I'm a good civil servant, I have a lot of knowledge, I have a lot of experience, and I have to meet citizens that are coming in with demands that are totally out of range. How am I supposed to meet them? How am I supposed to interact with them? Because I cannot, if they are customers, I cannot kind of say that to them, that I know better than you. So yet again another conflict. To end this, I would like us all to, in a way, rethink the participating subject. Are we clear about what kind of participants we are talking about? Are they participants in politics? Are they participants as in consumption? Or, since I often do these kinds of studies about how technology is made, are they participants in the design of these different public systems and the public system solutions? And it's a blur. When I talk with the practitioners, they very often blur them in between. So they're not really sure, is this a system that they should, or is this a service that should be bought and chosen from a consumption perspective, or isn't it? And if you talk about it as if it would be a choice, a free choice, and it's not, you talk about trust, you are delimiting the amount of trust if you talk about it in a wrong way, so to speak. And that also comes to the design question, how to balance different ambitions on creating new kinds of services with what actually is possible. Are you a designer or are you not? And then eventually, is this part of the political sphere, or isn't it? Is it part of service, or is it part of political sphere, or is it part of the service that you could buy? And these are the conflicts, I would argue, that a lot of public officials and civil servants and designers of systems, but the ones inside government, they are struggling with it because of the long distance in between the discursive level, how we talk about this, and how it's supposed to be done. So I think there, in between there, lies the Titanic. We are building it together.